Identify.
So I'm going to give an overview of some of the things that we do at Icpsr. For those of you who don't know, it stands for the Inter-University Consortium for Political and Social Research, and we're a social science data repository. I'll talk about how we make our research data fair, and I'll also mention some of the things that we're working on to make our data more findable, reusable, and machine actionable. So first, a little background on Icpsr. We're actually one of the oldest and largest social science data archives in the world. We've been around for nearly 60 years now. And currently we have over 16,000 studies in our archive, and we have over 5.7 million variables. We have raw data from surveys, administrative records, health records, and other types of studies. In addition to holding data, we also have a bibliography of data-related publications. And so we have over 97,000 publications that are based on the data in our archive. So Icpsr is a membership organization. We started out with 22 institutions, and now we've grown to over 790 institutions worldwide. And our membership organizations, they have access to the entire collection of data, to our teaching materials, as well as discounted fees for our summer program, where we provide a lot of statistical and methodology trainings and workshops on how to use the data. So a large portion of our data collection is freely available to everyone. And this is because Icpsr partners with several federal statistical agencies and foundations to create collections that are organized around specific themes. And so here are just some of our thematic collections. So the sponsors provide new data, and then the funded collections and Icpsr work together to build additional infrastructure for the data discovery and use. And we find that these thematic collections are really helpful for people to find data, and they also help stimulate research in particular thematic areas. So Icpsr is a trusted repository for social science data, in part because we've been around for a very long time, but also because we've received acknowledgement and certification from peers and independent authorities that have evaluated us and our processes. So for example, we received IMLS's National Medal, which is for institutions that make significant contributions to their communities. And we are also Core Trust Seal certified. And what this means is that an independent group of reviewers have determined that Icpsr follows good practices, and that our data are sustainable and trustworthy. Also, we are a member of DataPass, and this is a project that was funded by the Library of Congress to create a sustainable partnership model for preserving at-risk social science data. So we've partnered with other archives in the social sciences, and we came up with best practices for preserving the social science data. We've drafted archival standards for the partnership, and we also cooperate on various technology solutions for strengthening the preservation and access. And a key piece of being a DataPass member is that we came up with a succession plan. So we've made a promise to back up each other's archives and collections if one of us were to go out of business. And so this ensures that the data that is deposited with us won't just disappear, but will be around likely for a very long time. So at Icpsr, one of the key things that we do that sets us apart from some of the other data repositories is that we process and curate data to create a high quality standardized experience for users. So we believe it's not just enough to provide open data and assume that folks will be able to use it. It's actually can be quite challenging for analysts to find data and reuse existing data that doesn't have at least some level of curation. And so we put a lot of effort into curating the data because we want to ensure that digital data can be reused by others in the future. So we have a team of curators, all with social science backgrounds, and they've all come to Icpsr with experience working with data. And they review the incoming deposits for disclosure risk. They find and fix any issues with the data. And they also make sure that the questionnaires and codebook match up with the data files. We also have metadata librarians at our team who help with the process of making the data findable and usable. And they do this by adding tags to the data, enhancing existing documentation, and making sure that things are appropriately documented. So how do we meet fair data principles? Well, to ensure that data are findable, every Icpsr data collection is assigned a DOI, which appears in the citation on our website and in our downloads. And this persistent identifier never changes and allows people to cite the data and for data producers to get credit. We also create rich study and variable level metadata records in DDI. And we use DDI because it has a lot of the domain specific fields for the behavioral and social science data. Our metadata are registered with DataCite and available for batch harvest. And so a lot of libraries can harvest our content and pull this information into their catalogs. And then our metadata are also exportable and embedded in data landing pages, including structured data markup that's indexed by search engines like Dataverse and Google. And in fact, about 40% of our traffic comes from Google, which goes to show that having this type of information goes a long way to helping researchers find the data. In terms of accessibility, all of our metadata are openly accessible, and anyone with a computer and internet connection can access our data, unless the data are restricted due to confidentiality or sensitivity concerns. And in that case, they can access the data after an application process. So users who would like to download the data or analyze data online would just need to log in and then agree to our terms of use to ensure that they're using the data responsibly. For interoperability, Icpsr's metadata are in the DDI format, and you can also export our metadata in multiple formats. We use a controlled vocabulary to describe our data sets, and we also specify how data sets relate to one another. So for example, we'll note if one data set builds upon another or if complementary information is stored in a different data set. And then because we curate our data, Icpsr's metadata are very rich in detail and scope, which allow for reusability. So here on the slide, we've just listed some of the information we collect and provide. So we have PI information, funding source, project description, sampling procedures. And we also provide rich metadata on the variables. So we have exact question wording, missing data codes, imputation information, et cetera. We also provide a description of the workflow that led to the data. So who generated it, who collected it, how long has it been processed, has it been published before? So up until now, I've talked a lot about kind of what goes on in the back end. And I also wanted to show you what users will see as a result of this work. So this is what users see when they conduct a search at Icpsr. And you'll see here from the results of my search on the term bullying that the search is an integrated one. So we have 624 studies on the topic of bullying, over 2,700 variables, 56 different data series that have something on the topic. And we have almost 300 data related publications on bullying, and it's also mentioned 4 times on our website. On the left-hand side of our search results page, users are also able to filter and narrow the results across a number of facets. And these can range from the subject terms to the restriction type of the data to collection method and also PI and sponsor. And then when you click on a study, it will take you to the study homepage, and we have standardized information for each study. So we provide a citation to the data up at the top of the page, as well as lower down underneath the tab labeled at a glance, and then also in the downloaded documentation. So we embed a lot of reminders to data users to cite the data. You can also tell from our study homepage who is using the data through the usage report and also the related publications. And as mentioned before, this is a really great way for data producers to show their funders or even future funders the impact of their work. The At a Glance tab gives information about the study content and research methodology. The Data and Documentation tab allows users to preview the files and download data and related codebooks and questionnaires. And the Variables tab will show all the variables in the data if it's been marked up at the variable level. And when you click on the variable, you'll see that the frequency and distribution of the responses. And although I'm not showing it here, I did want to note that we have this interesting feature where you can actually compare the frequency as well as the question text of variables across different data sets that are in our archive. So I encourage you to visit our website and play around with that feature because it is pretty cool. And then I just wanted to end by noting that we are constantly trying to make our processes more efficient and to make it easier for both humans and machines to find and reuse data. And one of the things that we are working on is increasing our interoperability with the federal data catalog. So currently we have to create manual extracts of metadata for our funders to then be imported into data.gov. And we are working on creating an API that will let developers on the federal government's end automatically pull exports from our archives without having to rely on us to create them manually. Similarly, we're trying to streamline our process for how we populate our bibliography of data-related publications. Right now, it's a very intensive effort by our team of librarians. And we are working on creating a tool that will be able to parse out the article text to know when a publication is referencing a particular data set, because we know that people don't always cite the data appropriately. And then finally, most of our work has been with survey data, but what we do lends itself to other types of data as well. So for example, video data. We can provide file level discovery on video data, but there's also a lot of other types of information that we can extract from videos. And a recent use case I'm thinking of is that we have a vast collection of classroom observation videos that primarily education researchers have been using to understand how teaching practices relate to student outcomes. And more recently, computer scientists have started to express interest in using that data to train machine learning algorithms to code the videos. And so as we're listening to what sorts of features of the video matter to computer scientists to do their work, it really made us realize that we should be expanding our metadata on the videos. And we should be including things like what is the quality of the video and other unique features of the video, like what is the camera angle? Does it change a lot from video to video? Is it light or dark? So metadata on these types of aspects would really help potential users to discover and reuse the data. So with that, I'll just end there and thank you so much.